My name is Neville Chamberlain, and I'm going to be talking about how do you move from employee to independent professional and the biggest problems that I see people make. I'm going to share my screen here. I'm going to dive right into the presentation. Just so you guys know, there is a link to the slides at the end of the presentation, so stick around. If you do need to leave early, just send me a message in the chat and I will send you the link in the chat there. We're definitely going to try and finish. The presentation itself runs for about 35-40 minutes, and I've kept quite a bit of time at the end for any questions. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to just raise your hand in Zoom or wave at the camera, or just post a message in the chat and we'll get to that. So I'm going to start my screen sharing here and just make sure that I've got all my video. Marlene, can you see my screen? Which means everybody can see my screen, hopefully. So in this presentation, just a very, very brief background about myself. I grew up as a software developer back in the 80s when personal computers were still not a thing. And I've been involved in high tech for many years, probably about 20 years. I've also been a CEO and a startup founder and co-founder, CEO of 2 companies, both of them in excess of $10 million companies, 100-person companies. So I know what it's like to run companies and turn companies around. But since about 2010, 2011, I've been a consultant and a business coach. And quite recently, probably in the last 3 or 4 years, I've started specializing just on solopreneur businesses. So people who want a business to build a business by themselves. So you're either a consultant or a coach or I work with interior designers, graphic designers, software developers, anybody who delivers a professional service. That is the business that I focus on. So in today's presentation, I'm going to talk about how you go from employee to independent professional. And over the course of my career, I've probably now worked with well over 250 businesses, small businesses, some of them solopreneurs, some just a little bit bigger, startup businesses, and I've seen the same patterns emerge. People who make the same mistakes when they go from employee to independent professional. So we're going to talk about the most common mistake we make and how to fix it. The most important thing you absolutely have to get right as an independent professional, and then what I've seen to be the 6 key steps that you have to do to build that professional business. So, and as I mentioned, there's a link to the slides at the end of this. So let's talk about the most common mistake that I see people make when they go from employee to independent professional. I've been an employee myself for many, many years. And one of the things that I found is as an employee, you get trained both on the job and your professional training. And we're really, really great at what we do. So we're either good at strategy or design, engineering, project management, all of those different things. We have a certain set of skills and experience that make us really, really good at what we do. But here's one of the key things that you have to remember as an employee in a business, and that is that someone else decided where to apply our skills because they knew where we were needed. So if you're an engineer in a big oil company, then you had a team lead or a supervisor who would assign you to a specific project because they knew that your specific expertise was required there. Now, when we go from employee to independent professional, we take those skills and we say, hey, buy my strategy or designer or engineering skills. Sometimes you get lucky. If people know that they need a mechanical engineer, they're going to ask you to do work as a mechanical engineer. But if you're going out there and you're trying to find business for yourself, one of the things that you're going to find is that they're not looking for those particular skills. And the reason why is they don't know how to use your expertise to solve their problem. Right? This is one of the biggest problems that we face going from employee to independent professional. The people, the clients that we want to work with don't always know how to use our expertise. So the most common mistake we make is we think they know how to use our expertise. So we go out there, we are really good at strategy, we're really good at project management, and we think that if we just go out there and we hang a label out there and we say, hey, I'm an engineer or I'm a project manager, we think that they know how to use our expertise. And the problem is they don't. But they do know they want their problem solved. So let me give you an example. Let's say that you have really, really mad skills in strategy development and execution. You were trained as a strategist, you worked as a strategist for many years. And in this example, let's say that you want to work with small businesses where the business owner is stuck in their business, and you want to get them to a place where their business is growing and they have their time back. Now, the problem is that there are many ways for these clients, these business owners, to go from here to there. For example, if you're a time management expert, you can teach them how to manage their time better so that they can free up their time and have a better running business. If you're a HR expert, you can show people how to add people so that they can lighten the load. But if you're a strategist, you could also show them how to design and execute a killer strategy. All of these things are ways to get these business owners from their place where they're hurting, from the problem that they want to solve, all the way through to where they want to be in this brave new world. The problem is that they don't know which solution is the best one for their problem. We have to show them. So we have to show them that you have a problem. Sometimes they know they have a problem, sometimes they don't. Sometimes you have to make them aware that this is a really big problem. And you then have to show them what that brave new world can look like. You can actually solve that problem for them. What they don't know is how you can absolutely get them there. That's what they don't know. So we have to explain to people that we can take you from your world of pain to this brave new world, and this is exactly how I'm going to get you there. That's what we do as experts. That's what we do as independent professionals. So we have to build a bridge, and that bridge starts with a problem. You always have to make people understand that you know their problem, you understand their problem. And then you also have to paint the picture of what that new world can look like. And our job is to help them get from the world where they have the pain, the problem, to this brave new world. But we have to spell it out to them in fine detail and show them that we know exactly how to get them there. So this is what I call the zero to hero story. And one of the things that I do in my business is I have a program called the Tornado Roadmap for Building a Business. This is one of the tools that we use to help you define your business, the zero to hero story. So you go from zero to hero and you have a formula that will take them from where they are now to the brave new world. Now I'm going to show you on the next slide, I'm going to show you an example of what a zero to hero story looks like. I'm not going to read through this. There's a lot of text on the slide. When you download the slides, you can have a look at it and see what the example looks like. But this particular one, this is a fictitious independent professional. I call her Sue BizPlans, and she is a professional in creating business plans that actually work, that actually give businesses results. So she's described in her clients' words what their zero world looks like, what their hero world looks like, and she's then in her formula summarized how she's going to get them there. Okay, so the most common mistake I see people make when they go from employee to independent professional is that we think they know how to use our expertise. The problem is they don't. They just want their problem solved. So what we have to do is we have to build a bridge. We have to show them, number one, I understand your problem. I understand your pain. Number two, I know what you're looking for. I know how good that world will look like on the other side. And number three, I know exactly how to get you there. So that was point one. What's the most common mistake? And I see this absolutely time and time again. I'll show you another example in just a second. This is how to get around that particular problem. So the most important thing you have to get right by far, and I'm going to dive right in and I'm going to show you this immediately. What you have to do is you have to find your niche. I'm assuming that most of you are either independent professionals or you run a very small business, maybe one or two people. The most important thing you have to get right is to find your niche. A niche is a very well-defined target market with a very specific problem. That's how we define a niche. Now, I'm going to show you an example here. Let's say that you start out in business, and this is a real example. I've seen people say, I help small businesses grow. And I can guarantee you, and in this case, it was very true, that you are not going to have a successful business if this is what you take out into the market. Because it's just too broad. You work with small businesses, but you don't tell them whether you are going to look at productivity or financial management, how you're going to help them. So the message to the market is very vague. Nobody's going to listen to you. Let's niche down just one step. I help small manufacturing companies grow. As soon as you identify your target clients, then you have the world just open to you because you can open up, I was going to say yellow pages, which would probably peg my age a little bit, but you can open up Google and you can search for manufacturing companies in a specific region, and you'll find a list of manufacturing companies. So suddenly you now know who your potential clients are. That's the first thing that we've done just by niching down a little bit. So we've niched down and we know exactly who our clients are. But if we niche down just a little bit more and we now address a specific problem, and you say, I help small manufacturing companies get government contracts. Just imagine if you have that as a LinkedIn profile. People know exactly who you work with, and they know exactly what you can help them do. This is the power of the niche. And to me, this is probably the most important thing that you have to do as an independent professional. You're one person, you can't solve the world's problems, you have to focus on a niche. The better to find this niche, the easier it's going to be to find your clients. Then there's a whole host more things. Number one, it's easier to find your clients if you niche down. This is the power of the niche. It's easier to find your clients. It's easier for them to find you. That's another really, really key thing, because if somebody runs a small manufacturing company and they're thinking about government contracts, they're going to search LinkedIn or they're going to search Google, or they're going to hear about this person who specializes just in this specific kind of business. The other thing that is absolutely crucial is that marketing becomes way, 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 way easier. Now, all this stuff about social media and referrals and networking and stuff, all of that just goes away because you now have a list of the companies that you work with. You can target them directly. Your message becomes so much more clear and well-defined. All of this happens when you niche down. The next thing is you can establish your expertise and authority as an expert in this field. How many people specialize in helping small manufacturing companies get government contracts? I can guarantee you now there's probably one or two in Alberta. Very, very few. Yeah. So when you niche down, you become the expert, you become the authority on how to do this stuff. Yeah. My niche is solopreneurs building a service business. Now, I'm fortunate when you go and look at the stats, there are something like 50 million plus solopreneurs in the US alone. So I have a fairly big market, but I have a slightly different kind of business. But you can establish your expertise and authority as the expert in this area. There's less competition. Word gets around faster. Any market that is small enough, all the people know each other or know about each other in that market. Yeah, so word gets around in those small circles. You get better and faster. That's another advantage of niching down, because you're focused just on one thing. You can get better at what you do and you can get faster at what you do, which means that you can start raising your prices because you get better, and you work less because you can get faster. You can start automating some of the mundane stuff. All of this hangs around the niche. You become the go-to person for that specific problem. And I think I had one more. As your expertise grows, it's easier to raise your prices. These are all advantages of niching down. If you find that niche, if you focus on that specific niche, you have a much better chance of building a business as an independent professional. So the most important thing you have to get right by far is to find your niche. Solve a very specific problem for a very well-defined target market. So that was point number 2. Point number 3, the 6 key steps to building a business as an independent professional. The 6 steps are: what problem am I solving? How am I going to make money? I'm going to dive into each one of these just a little bit. The first one is, what problem am I solving? You have to decide when you're an independent professional, you have to decide, what problem am I solving? And that's all about finding your niche. My experience is that entrepreneurs struggle because they expect their clients to understand how to use their expertise. And as we know, those clients don't. Yeah, so you have to niche down, solve a very specific problem for a well-defined target market. That is absolutely key. I can't overstress this. When you get this right, everything becomes easier. It's difficult sometimes to find that niche, yeah, because you wonder if there's really a market out there, but there are ways in which you can test that. But this is the crux. You have to go and niche down. Number 2, you have to decide how you're going to make money. The problem that I see so often is that people have problems pricing their services, and they have unrealistic expectations about how many sales they can make. Now, I see this all the time. People are just uncertain. They don't know how to price their services, how many sales they can make. So here's 3 key points that you have to keep in mind. Number 1, sell your services like products. Okay, the days of consulting by the hour, if I could wave a magic wand, nobody would consult by the hour. Because as soon as you consult by the hour, you're handing over power to your client. You're expecting them to drive you to show up and deliver an hour's work. If you do sell and deliver your services like products, you become the expert. You're in charge. This is very important. As soon as you're in charge, you're the expert, they follow your advice. You'll say, you're here, I've done the discoveries, I've done all of the initial assessments, this is where you want to be, this is the road that we're going to be, give me the keys, I'm going to drive, and I'll get you from here to there. If you're consulting by the hour, number 1, you have to fill in timesheets, which is horrible. Number 2, they're going to question your timesheets. Why did it take so long to do a particular thing? There's no incentive for you to get better or faster. But if you sell your service as a product, you're going to have to put a price on it, and you're going to have to say, this is the price, this is what you get for the price. I'm the expert, I know that I can do it within this time. So it forces some discipline on you as well. Number 2, price based on their return on investment. Okay, if you sell your service, let's say for $10,000, they need to get at least their money back, but hopefully 2, 3, maybe 5 times that investment. And you have to be able to show them that if you spend $10,000 on me, this is the likely outcome. You're going to get $50,000 in more revenue, or you're going to save $10,000 per year on manufacturing costs, whatever the case may be. But you have to price it in terms of their return on investment. The third thing that's really important is to assume that only 50% of your time is going to be available to actually deliver your services. If you work 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, there's 2,000 hours. When you're an independent professional, you have to do your own marketing, you have to do your own lead generation, you have to do all of the admin in your business, you have to take sick leave, you have to take vacation. So that 50 weeks whittles down very quickly. So as a starting point, what I always recommend is that you assume only 50% of your time, around 850, maybe 900 hours a year. That's revenue generating time. So all of these things are guidelines for how you price your services. In the Tornado Roadmap, we use this construct over here. This is called a product ladder. And the idea with a product ladder is you offer small, medium, and large versions of your services, and you include more or less for a certain fixed price. This is another key concept that I think is really, really important. And I'm going to throw in an additional hint here. You can double your chances of making the sale if you give your clients a choice. So if somebody comes to you and says, hey, I want to buy your services, and you put a proposal in front of them, they can only say yes or no. But if you give them a choice, you say, here's option 1, here's option 2, then they can say yes to number 1, yes to number 2, or no to both. You just doubled your chances of making the sale. This is probably the most important thing I've ever seen in my life. It worked for me as a consultant. When you start offering that choice, almost inevitably, people pick the middle one. And you'd be surprised at how many people pick the top of the range. So number 1, this is productized services. This is a product ladder. On my website, there's lots of articles about product ladders, so you can read more about that. The other thing that we have to calculate is what we call your path to profit. And the path to profit tells you 2 main things. Number 1, how many sales do you have to make of all your different products? And number 2, how many hours is it going to take to deliver those services? If you're selling as an independent professional, you have to be able to make a reasonable number of sales to reach your target revenue. You can't sell 1,000 things a year. If you sell just 1 a year, that's going to be high value and therefore a very long sales cycle. So you have to be able to calculate the number of sales that you have to make in order to reach your revenue target. That's part of how we design a business, so that you don't have to make too many sales, but they're also not too low a value. So number 3, what do I want it to look like? There's a lot of competition out there. Don't let an unpolished image kick you out of the game. If you look sloppy, if you show up and you look like an amateur or unprofessional, your clients are not going to look at you. The very least you can get away with is you need a logo or a word mark. This is about branding. For those of you who haven't guessed so far, this is about branding. So you need a logo or a word mark. You need to use your fonts consistently, and you need to use colors consistently. And what you then need to do is you need to take those 3 things and you need to create templates, Word, PowerPoint, whatever you use, so that everything that you present to your clients always looks professional and consistent. You don't need to put a huge amount of effort in here, but if you always look professional, especially in your marketing material, then you can go to create a much better impression than somebody who's just an amateur. Your website is important. One of the key things, your website is not going to generate leads. Okay, for a small independent professional, unless you're a marketing wizard and you know how to do marketing to get people to your website and then contact you, those people are very, very few and far between. For 99% of us, your website is your online calling card. This is where people go to see if you're legitimate, whether you really do what you do, and to check you out and to see, yeah, this person looks professional, they worked with some decent companies, I'd be willing to give them a try, or at least contact them to get more information. So make sure you have a website. It doesn't have to be huge or fancy. It just has to be professional and it has to be there. Every now and then I come across somebody who doesn't have a website and they're successful, but those are absolutely rare. Number 4, how am I going to get clients? This is the biggest problem that everybody always struggles with. And the problem that I see here is that too many entrepreneurs focus just on marketing. Here's the key. Here's the lesson that you need to learn. If you learn nothing else, learn this lesson today. Marketing just gets them to knock on your door. It's what happens after marketing that determines whether they buy. So if you do a lot of LinkedIn promotions or you're advertising on Facebook or something like that, that's what we call marketing. That raises awareness that you exist. If people are interested, they're going to go to your website and then they're going to contact you. And that's where their decision process starts. Well, it has already started because they've made the decision to contact you. But what happens now determines whether they're actually going to buy. So you have to design what we call a great customer journey. Once people have contacted you, what are they going to see? Are they going to see emails, case studies? Are you going to talk to them on the phone? Are you going to have Zoom calls? How are you going to make the sale? How easy is it going to be to make a sale for them? They always need to feel like a VIP. From the list of people here in the participant list, I don't think there are many people that know me. So what I'm going to show you here is something called the tornado method. The backstory here is that when I started out building my own business, because I'm a techie, I want to understand how stuff works, and that drives my wife crazy. But I had to figure out what are all the things that you need to do to build a successful business. And I designed something that I call the tornado method. There's a link over here at Britewrx.com. Just go to the website. It's a free download, the beginner's guide to the tornado method. There are 11 elements you need to get right. These 5 are what we call the revenue engine. The purpose of marketing is to attract leads. Okay. Marketing was such a big thing for me that people usually lump marketing and sales together. And I thought to myself, well, that's much too complicated. So I break it up into 3 different parts. Marketing is what you do to make people aware you exist. Lead nurturing is once they contact you, you can start having one-on-one conversations with them. And if they're really interested in what you have, then you can start talking about selling your stuff. But understanding what people are going to experience during each one of these phases, actually designing this up front, is going to make your whole marketing, lead nurturing, selling process so much easier because you know what needs to happen when. And you can tweak it over time to make sure you get the best results. So you need to know before the time, how will you nurture your leads? How are you going to make the sale? What information do they get? What contracts do they get? All of that stuff you need to understand before the time. And there's a tool for that. And this is what we call the customer journey tool. And this customer journey tool, again, this comes out of the Tornado Roadmap. This defines the exact sequence of things that people will see, read, or hear after they've contacted you. So in this particular case, this is Sue Biz Plans. So when somebody contacts them or she reaches out to them, she's going to start off with a phone or a video call to get to understand them. She's going to send them some case studies. She's going to qualify them by asking them about their revenue and team size. Then she's going to send them a sequence of emails and so on. The point is that she knows exactly what needs to happen for each client. So she never leaves clients hanging. The number of entrepreneurs that get a lead, talk to a client once, and then forget to follow up or are just too busy to follow up with those clients are amazing. I see this all the time. Okay, so design this great customer journey. Number 5, build the customer journey. One of the problems that we have is, as solopreneurs, we're so busy with everything, we forget that we actually have to get all of this content ready that we have to send to our clients. So we have to build all of this content, all the emails they get, case studies, proposal templates, all of the stuff. We have to have this ready for when clients arrive. So remember, it's what happens after marketing that determines whether they buy. So have all of your content ready so that when people do arrive, they feel like VIPs. They feel like you're a professional. So have that customer journey ready for them. And then number 6, start marketing. Now, I can write a book about marketing. Here are some of the key things that I've learned about marketing. Beginnings are the most difficult. Yeah, I've never seen a solopreneur who starts out who doesn't hustle. And I hate the word hustle because it conjures up this image of people running around speaking to everyone and just being on fire all the time. But you're going to have to network. You're slowly but surely going to have to get the word out. This kind of webinar is probably one of the best ways to generate interest in what you do, because what I know, when people join the webinar, you're already interested in what I have to offer. I don't have to knock on your door and say, hey, are you interested in this? You're already interested. That's a huge difference. The marketing people call this inbound versus outbound marketing. Outbound is where you go out and you knock on people's door and they tell you to go away. Inbound marketing is where you market and you wait for people to come to you. Pros and cons to each, and different things work in different circumstances, but remember, beginnings are difficult. Speak wherever you can. This kind of venue, conferences, associations, professional associations, become known as the person. 3-4 years ago, when I started out with the tornado method, I was surprised after maybe a year, people were calling me and saying, oh, you're the tornado guy. Or they'd meet me at a talk or somewhere and they say, you're the tornado guy. Now, I don't know much about tornadoes, but I do know a lot about the tornado method, which is all the stuff you need to build the business. So there's a little bit of notoriety that comes with that, and people recognize you. The more people recognize you, the more they're likely to pay attention. When you're starting out with your business, you're going to get your first lead, and you're going to get incredibly excited about the potential of the lead. Here's my best advice to you. Put a lot of time and effort into it, but take all your expectation out of it. Assume they're not going to buy, because most people are not going to buy. Not because it's personal or because you have a bad service, it's because they're not ready to buy when you're ready to sell. I have so many times I've spoken to people and they're really interested in what I have to offer. And then they disappear, and a year later they come back and they buy, because then they're ready. Yeah. So take your expectation out of people coming to buy from you. You're going to save yourself a lot of heartache. But put all the effort you possibly can into making the sale. Build an email list. One of the things that I've found, those people who are not ready to buy at the moment, or they don't trust that you have enough expertise yet, a year from now, if they somehow hear about you, they might be in a better position to buy, or you might have more of a reputation as being able to deliver the goods. The best way to get hold of them is with email. That's the easiest way. You don't have to spam people. You don't have to send an email a week. Maybe if you send an email once a quarter with a case study. If you really want to get into content marketing and email marketing, then yes, there's a lot of sophistication you can get in here. But start building an email list now. Every single person that you speak to, put them in an Excel spreadsheet, make a note about how you met them and what they were interested in. This pays off in the long run. And then my 3 principles for effective marketing. Number 1, always provide value. Yeah. This webinar is my way of giving back to all the solopreneurs out there. I'm going to point you at my website, but other than that, there's no sales or anything in here. I'm just trying to provide value. And a month from now or a year from now, you're going to hear about me again, and hopefully you will have taken away something from here. Number 2, be consistent. If you appear on LinkedIn every day, then always appear every day. If you appear on LinkedIn once a month, that's fine too, but make it valuable. If you can, be frequent. Not too frequent. You don't want to spam people with too much information, because we all have built-in filters for the 6,000 odd messages that we get every day, all the marketing messages. Yeah. So number 1, always provide value. Be consistent, but only if you provide value. And then be frequent, but only if you provide value and you're consistent. So those are my absolute keys for marketing, the 3 principles of effective marketing. So here are the 6 key steps to building a business. Just a very quick recap. What problem am I solving? Niche down, very specific market, very specific problem. Number 2, how am I going to make money? Package your services like products, determine how many of them you have to sell to reach your target market. Number 3, look professional. Yeah, doesn't have to be wonderful, doesn't have to be over the top. You don't have to spend $10,000 on a branding exercise. You can get away with very little, but at least always look professional. Number 4, design a great customer journey. Decide how you're going to get clients. What are you going to do when they show up? What are you going to do when they look ready to start talking about buying from you? Understand that before the time, and then build it. Have the content ready for when they arrive. And number 6, then you start marketing. Nobody follows this list from step 1 sequentially. Very few people come into this journey at the beginning. But everyone that I work with, I force them to go through these 6 steps, because most people, they struggle to get clients. And what I see is that they don't know which problem they're solving, not clearly enough. So we have to go back to the start. This is the Tornado Roadmap. You can check it out. This is the program that I built to take people through these different steps. You can see more information on my website. Download the slides. Britewrx.com/IPW. IPW stands for Independent Professionals Webinar /IPW. I've just posted it here in the chat as well. So there's the link. That's where you can, whoops, I need to post this to everyone. There we go. Now everybody should have the link in the chat. So that's my story. There's a lot of content in here and a lot of stuff. So I'm going to stop my share, and questions, please. Raise your hand on the video, wave them at me, type it in the chat. What do you want to know? I need coffee. Don.
Hey, thanks for your presentation there. You had talked about email lists, and you had kind of thrown out, like, obviously the easy answer is Excel spreadsheet with lists. Do you kind of feel like there's a need to kind of find an appropriate system to use that to capture your email list? I don't know what they are out there, but I do know they exist. Or do you think Excel is just good enough as it is?
I'll tell you what system I use, and then I'll just add a little bit of a story out there. I use something called ConvertKit, and I'll post their link in here, or just their name, ConvertKit. Send to everyone. I use ConvertKit. It's an email marketing automation system. And it starts off very basic. You can capture subscriber information in there. But here's my recommendation. There are lots of really good systems out there that can help us build our businesses. If you're technically inclined and you know how to drive stuff like this, then the decision is easy, go for it. If you're not technically inclined, resist the temptation to start building fancy systems, because fancy systems need a lot of maintenance and improvement over time. My recommendation usually, if you are not technically inclined or you just don't want to be bothered with it right now, is start with something simple like an Excel spreadsheet. It's not going to give you a lot of functionality, but you have the contact list and you can send emails to people if and when you need to. Then when you do decide to invest in something like this, then you have your email list ready. You can start adding people in there. Yeah. So I use ConvertKit. You could use MailChimp. There's Constant Contact, Aweber, a whole bunch of them. ConvertKit to me has the balance of functionality and features that allow me to do stuff really quickly. Does that answer the question, Don? More questions? How do you find your niche when you first started? Any suggestions or steps to follow? All right, I'm going to tell you a little story. When I started out as a consultant, I previously run businesses, as I mentioned, with 100 people in them, in excess of $10 million revenue. And I took some time out, came back into the market. And one of the things that frustrated me was that when I looked at small business websites is that they weren't very clear about what they were doing. So in my mind, these people lacked business clarity. And I had this killer thing called the tornado method, which could help them find clarity. And once you have business clarity, your sales become easier, marketing becomes easier, it's easier to engage your team, all that kind of stuff. That business failed. I trot around for a year trying to sell business clarity, but I didn't realize nobody wanted business clarity. You know, I think some of the CEOs that I spoke to were actually a little bit offended that I was telling them you don't have business clarity. So I then switched that around, learning my lesson the hard way. I switched around and I said, here's how you can build highly engaged teams. And suddenly everybody wanted this. Everybody wanted highly engaged team, because a small business, one of your biggest problem ever is people. That's the biggest thing you're going to struggle with. So now everybody knew what it meant that I wanted, or what I was offering. Everybody knew what it meant. And they came to me and I built a thriving consulting business just on helping people build highly engaged teams. The irony is that I was using the same tools. I was just packaging it in a different way. So to answer your question more directly, how do you find your niche when you first started? Number one, you must have a skill. You must be good at something. You don't have to be the world's expert. You just have to know more than the people that you serve. That's number one. Number two, you must have a passion for it. If you're not passionate about what you do, building a business is tough. If you don't have a passion for it, you are going to fall over. You are going to struggle. So make sure that you're passionate about what you do. And, you know, I see people who have the most ridiculous small niches in the world. If you want to get gross, you can go to Google and find people who collect toenail clippings. That's a thing. It's gross, but that's their specialty. The point is that you can specialize in almost anything. So number one, start with expertise. What are you good at? Because you cannot sell something that you're not good at. Number two, make sure you have a passion. Then the difficult part becomes, number three, package it in a way that they understand, your clients understand. That takes trial and error. And the best way to do that is to get either a mastermind, you can join my program if you like, you need other people to tell you what this looks like from the outside. Is this a valuable, strong message that you're taking out to market? Because when we're stuck inside the echo chambers of our own heads, we only hear our own heads, and we only understand what we already understand. We don't see what it looks like to the outside world. So even today, when I think I'm reasonably successful, I still have a mastermind group, and I tell them, guys, give me your most strict interpretation or advice or impression of this thing that I'm trying to put to market here. And I have to trust them that they're coming back to me with good intentions. They're telling me, no, man, this really smells. It doesn't look good. Or if you pivot it and present it in a slightly different way, then you have something that other people are going to listen to. So number one, start with your skill. You have to have some expertise. Good news is you don't have to be the world's best. Number two, make sure you have a passion for it. And number three, present it so that other people get it. I hope that answers the question. Thank you. You're very, very welcome. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce your name, Jalman. That's as close as I can get. More questions. We have 10 minutes left here. Yes, Don.
I have another, if people don't mind. I think I've seen a few names here on a few of the other consulting webinars, so this may be a repetitive question for a few other folks here. So I'm not an independent consultant yet. I'm working. I'm actually trying to figure out what my next move is, but consulting is, my management consulting is kind of my next move, whether it's, top tier, MBB, Big Four, or independent. I'm trying to figure out how to navigate which way to go. But my situation that I'm in is, I have a regular job. I don't know if regular is the right word, but I have a job. I'm an employee. I don't have war chests that I can, survive for a year. I have a family, I have a mortgage, etc. I didn't get an exit. So I'm just trying to figure out like how possible it is to move from, having a job to independent consulting without kind of some intermediary to like survive for a year, or do I just have to find a way to find that intermediary first? What are your opinions on that, or have you worked with anybody who's tried to make that kind of
everybody starts out like that. Almost everybody that I know starts out as a side gig, and they leave their jobs either because they don't like their boss, or they can see the writing on the wall. I mean, there's been so much downsizing in Calgary over the past few years. Do you know the term runway?
I can surmise. I haven't heard it specifically, but I'm assuming you need to
In the startup world, runway means the amount of money that you have, or sorry, it's how long you can sustain yourself before you have to go and find a job. Okay, when a venture capitalist comes in and they fund your company, they're giving you 12 months worth of runway at a certain burn rate. So, that money is going to last you for 12 months. So here's my thought on this. If you're currently in a job and there's no impending doom, then your runway is effectively as long as you have your job. You can work on your side job or side gig, if you like. You can start building that up slowly but surely because you have income coming in. If you get laid off and you get a package, then you have as much runway as that money allows you to survive. But building a business or trying to start your own solopreneur business when you have no money and you have to start borrowing money or open a home equity line of credit or stuff like that, that's an incredibly stressful situation. So my recommendation always is, if you don't have runway, if you don't have the financial means to sustain yourself, find a way. It's going to take you 3 to 6 months before you see your first revenue as a solopreneur. That's a generalization. Some people walk out the door and they have a consulting job the next day. But if you want to build a sustainable business that's going to last for the next 10, 20 years, then you're going to have to put more effort into it. So you have to give yourself some runway. If you have a job, hang on to it until you feel happy that you can start going out on your own. You have to have runway. Building a business with no money is not fun.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
More questions?
Hi, I've got a question. How do you
Sure.
get off of the treadmill of, say, you're kind of, you've got your consulting up and going, but I find myself in the position where, caught between doing versus planning and versus management, and just getting away from having to do all the things and actually get to a place where you can build and grow.
I'm not sure exactly what you mean, Carla. What do you mean by managing?
So I have one staff, and then I have another staff always in their position that keeps quitting, and like, how do I train people to get everyone pulling in the right direction and bring people on, but at the same time I'm still trying to keep my clients happening and doing the day-to-day work.
All right. I'm not sure that I'm going to answer the question, but one of the most critical things you have to do is you have to get the knowledge that's inside your head out of your head so other people can do those tasks. One of the best books on this particular topic is The E-Myth Revisited. Okay. You'll find it on Google. And the whole premise here is that we gather over time, we gather so much knowledge in our heads that we just know exactly what needs to happen and how it needs to happen. When we bring people on board, they don't know how stuff should happen. So we tell them, but they retain maybe 10% of what we say after 72 hours. By then they've forgotten it. So they cannot repetitively or do the tasks that you assign them unless you start out with something as simple as a checklist. So for me, when you bring anybody into a company, you have to be able to make their job as clear as possible. The more repetitive and the less thinking the job requires, the more you can give them step-by-step checklists. Do this, then that, then that, and that, and anybody can follow that checklist. The more thinking the job requires, the more you go for outcome-based with specific processes and procedures. But they have to understand exactly how to do it, so you can give them the list, you can train them, give them 3 months or whatever, and then they should be able to do that on their own. You shouldn't have to spend your time micromanaging people.
Okay.
Yeah, that's that to me.
Sorry, the book.
Go ahead, Carla.
Sorry, the book was The E-Myth Revisited.
Yes, let me find it here for you quickly. Michael Gerber is the author. Amazon to the rescue. Give me just a second. I'll post it in here for you.
I found it, thanks.
Yep, I'll post the link here anyway for other people.
No, you don't. Leave the cushion.
So there's the E-Myth Revisited. Effectively what Michael Gerber says, and I've spoken to him a couple of times, he says you want to run your business almost like a franchise. Or start thinking at least about running your business like a franchise. If you bring other people in, give them ways to do things. That's how you maintain quality. That's how you maintain standards. Don't keep it inside your head. All right, guys, we've got just a couple of minutes left here. Last question. Nobody? Hot faster.
I just want to say thanks, Nev. And yeah, I've always thought of going off consulting on my own because I do a lot of work for the engineering company, and
yeah,
like it's so easy. I wish I could just do it myself and take all the profit. But I mean, it's hard to get that business. So I'm slowly learning. So I really appreciate your talk. It's another step I'm taking, and hopefully in 5-10 years from now, I'll be on my own.
Yeah, Bruce, thank you. First of all, I see a lot of engineers who have to do this, and in some ways you have almost an advantage because as an engineer, your expertise in your job is very well defined. So when you go and work for an engineering company, they understand how to use that expertise. So, but if you want to work directly with your clients, you have to go through the job of telling them what problem you're solving and how to get them there. It's a bit of a longer journey.